Welcome to 21st Century Music Theory.
Hey, Mikhail, before we start, let's give a shout out to New Orleans, the Big Easy. This is, by the way, the place where we had the origins of the drum set, the rhythm section, and trad jazz. And all of us who appreciate popular music basically anywhere in the world, we owe a lot to this place. So New Orleans, everybody in New Orleans, here's a shout out to you.
All right. Today we talk about a musical element close to all of our hearts, rhythm.
Yeah, so rhythm is basically the flow and duration of musical sounds over time. That is literally how everything flows over time and actually the duration of sounds. In an orchestra, it's all of the instruments together in bands. In a rhythm section or rock bands, popular music, it's the bass, the drums, how all this music basically flows over time and the duration of all the sounds. Right. So let's let our little friends, LB and JP, help us understand the skills we must learn to understand rhythm.
All right, fellas, can you help?
Who you calling little? Anyway, who doesn't like the beat in music? I love to jam out with a gnarly beat. When we say, I like the beat in a piece of music, you really don't mean beat. A beat is just a pulse or a red root vegetable. You mean the sum total of how all the musical instruments flow against the pulse. Well, how should we think about rhythms then? Formerly known as the beat, Mr. Smarty Pants. We learn 3 primary skills. The first is to have a good time, which we'll talk about later. Let me guess the other 2. Hear and write musical rhythm, to be able to hear rhythm and either visualize it, write it, or play it. And then read musical rhythms. This speeds up the exchange of ideas between musicians. To read and write musical rhythm is to know when and where to put pitches and chords over time. Maybe you're not as primitive as I thought, but yes, we learn to read and write rhythms in common time or 4 beats per measure. Once we drill the 5 different notes and rests that make up most of our music in all combinations, we'll have the foundation of much of our music and explore the other rhythms and measures as well. So check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, brother.
Hey guys, that's enough, all right?
All right, let's get started with Western cultures, where we start with mastering common time, which we call 4/4. 4 beats per measure, 4 beats per cycle, whatever you want to call it. We master reading and playing music in meter or time signature. We move on to master other meters or time signatures.
So the essence of this is common time, or 4/4, is literally so common that when you can master reading and writing music in this particular time signature, you have a huge percentage of what you need, plus the overall discipline. So we start by learning to recognize notes and rest types in common time. Whole notes and whole rests each have 4 beats per measure.
Half note, half rest have 2 beats.
Quarter note and quarter rest has 1 beat. It's also the standard for what we call a beat in common time, or the bottom number of a time signature, 4/4.
Then we learn the notes for subdivisions, 8th notes, and 8th rest.
Triplets and triplet rests and rests in triplet rhythm.
And 16th notes and 16th rest.
When we start to read and write rhythms in common time, we will begin with simple phonetics, even learning to write the syllables below the rhythms as follows. Numbers go under the location of each beat. So when we begin writing rhythms, we start by writing the syllables underneath until we can sound them out, and then afterwards, once we get a little bit better at it, we don't write the syllables anymore. We simply sound out the rhythms before we play them. Let's go through. A whole note. We would start with 1, and then we'd put in parentheses whatever it is we don't use, 2, 3, 4. A whole rest, all of them go in parentheses because we say or play nothing. Half notes, we'd write 1, and then 2 would be in parentheses. Okay, half rests, we put them both in parentheses. We don't say or play anything. Quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. If we use quarter rests, whatever beat they're on, we put them in parentheses and we don't say them. This teaches us how to sound out the rhythm. 8th notes are all 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So whatever place the 8th note falls on the stream of subdivision is what you put. In this case, it falls on 1 and has an 8th note rest, and then 2 and. Okay, so we sound this out. This would be 1, 2 and and then I don't say 3 and 4 because it's in parentheses, okay? Triplets basically looks like an eighth note. We actually had no notation for this. This was a development later in musical history. We put a 3 above that to remind us these are not actual eighth notes, they're triplets. And the syllables for that are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. In this particular case, we have 1 and. Then the eighth note rest now is an eighth note triplet, comes in on beat 2. I put in parentheses. I come in on the second eighth note and then hold it over for Okay, and then again a half note rest for 3 and 4 in this case. All right, 16th notes are 1E and 2E and 3E and 4D and equally dividing a beat into 4 pieces. In this case, I have a 16th note with the stem down and the flags always go to the right. This is on beat 1, and 16th note rest is on beat E, or I should say the E of beat 1, and then I come in with 2 16th notes and So this would be 1 and 1 E and I don't say E, 1 and then 2 E and 1 and 2 E and then a rest on beat 3 and 4. So we learn to go ahead and write the rhythms to be able to go ahead and put the syllables there, sound them out slowly, and then eventually, obviously, we get to the point where we can play the rhythms automatically attaching the notes. That's called reading music. That's the next goal. So when we learn to read syllables again, then we practice a variety of different patterns. Here's the good news. We only have 6 different kinds of notes: whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, and triplets for most of what we do in common time. And there's only so many combinations of those, both rests and notes. But the bad news is we do it in real time. So we just simply have to drill this and practice. First, writing the syllables. Let's go ahead and do one up here. All right. Here I have a whole note. 1, I hold it over for beats 2, 3, and 4. Half note, 1. Quarter note, 3, 4. Quarter note rest, 1, I don't say. 2, eighth notes, 3, and I don't say beat 4. There's an eighth note rest, normally has a little thing there. Beat 4, and then I come in on and. Beat 1, then I say and. 2 E and now I have 16th notes, okay? This is on beat 3, it's an eighth note, it's half of a beat. I don't have the third quarter here, so E, and then I come in on and then 2 16th and an eighth is 4 E and. And again, there's only 3 or 4 combinations of 8th and 16th notes, so once you run them over, you got them. All right, let's go ahead and start this again. Let's read it all the way through. All right, so let's go ahead and try saying this now, saying this rhythm. I'm setting the metronome with the eighth note as well. This is set very slowly with the eighth note subdivided. Here we go. Ready, go. 1, 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, and 2 E and a 3, a 4 E and. And now, to practice this, I might even slow it down a little bit further. And 2 E and 3, 4 E and 2 E and 3, 4 E and. Okay, and then I would speed it up. And 2 E and a 3, a 4 E N, and 2 E and a 3, a 4 E N. And now I would go ahead and put it back into the context of the music. And now let's practice with an actual piece of music, okay? Here we go. I wrote underneath here, there's an eighth note rest, that's beat 1. I come in on and, that's an eighth note. Beat 2, 3 and, quarter rest 4. 1, it's a half note, I hold over for beat 2, then 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3 E and 4, beat 1 is a rest, and 16th notes, 2 E and, this comes in on the third 16th, so it's and then holds over for and then this is beat 3 and it sustains for beat 4. So let's go ahead and try this now with the metronome. Alright, so we're going now live with the metronome, here we go. And 2, 3 and 4, 1, 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3 E and a 4, and 2 E and 3. Once you practice the rhythm, remember then to go back and then erase the syllables and then try to do it on your own so that you can get it up to real time before you start putting notes on. So here we go. 1 and 2. 1, 2, ready, go. And 2, 3, and 1, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, E and a 4, and 2, E and 3.
Remember, practice sounding out a rhythm of a piece before playing the notes to make sure we know how the notes will flow over time.
Yeah, so if we don't do this, what happens is we'll come up with a rhythm in our own minds, and it's really hard to get it out of our heads. So when we start reading music, when we start playing music, we practice the rhythm starting very slowly, we sound it out, we work it up, and then we begin the process of attaching the notes. Now, when you get better at this and you've run all the combinations, and there aren't that many, you'll be able to go ahead and just look for the rhythms that you haven't seen for a while, and you'll be able to sound those out, and the process gets a lot simpler. In fact, we stop using syllables after a while. So that's basically it, and then after that we're reading music.
All right. Guys, did you get this?
Did you get it, guys?
I believe, in fact, I did. First, practice the rhythmic coordination, including exact location of beats and subdivisions with a metronome. So learn to recognize note and rest values in common time and practice writing syllables and sounding out rhythms. Dude, I totally got this. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. How on earth did I end up working with you anyway? But if we only use primarily 6 kinds of notes and common time is, well, so common, then there are only so many combinations someone can write, which is great news. We move on to make it real. Hardcore rhymes make it more and more mine. Abstract lines in a 4/4 time. Oh, brother.
That's it. Practicing reading and writing rhythms in common time will get you comfortable with the process.
Yeah, and then we can expand to other meters later. So just remember, always practice with a metronome until your time is independently solid, and slow down. Here's how we count the rhythm. E1, E and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and up. And up. 1 E and a 4 E and a 1, 2 and up. A 1. That's it.
Wrapped up in your arms, I just want me.